Hey, what's going on guys, it's CeelZ and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. And today we're talking about a common and relevant question. And that question is, do politics belong in entertainment? Or in other words, do politics belong in movies and TV shows? Short answer, yes. No, but seriously, it does. And before you give a dislike and leave the video, let me just explain my point first, and by the end of the video, you can make your own decision. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Firstly, let's make this completely clear. Filmmaking has always been about politics, or at least had some political undertones. I mean, hell, not just filmmaking, but all of art, painting, poetry, writing, just about any form of art has been involved in politics at some point or another. And to truly run my point home of how interconnected movies and politics are, let's do a little quiz. Which of these movies have political undertones or at least have to do with politics in some way? Barbie, Platoon, 28 Years Later, or American Psycho? And if you chose anything but all of them, you're wrong. None of these movies have anything to do with one another. They're in different eras, different genres, and for different demographics, but they all have political undertones in some way, shape, or form. I've just listed movies that your dad likes, movies that your brothers and sisters and your mom likes. So why has politics in movies become such a hot button issue in recent times? Now, I think everyone who lives in the USA knows that politics has gotten quite crazy and hyper divided, so it definitely plays a factor in all of this, and I could definitely talk about that forever, but it's not my place to speak on that, especially on this video, and certainly not on this channel. But what I am going to talk about is bad politics, or what I like to call forced politics, which I think has led to this wave of people disliking politics in their movies and TV shows, when funny enough, those same people's favorite films or TV shows have some form of political undertones or commentary in them. So you might be asking, what's forced politics? It's kind of hard to explain, but the best way I can describe it is when politics isn't really connected to the story, and or it's obvious the politics are being shown/used in the project to get brownie points from a certain group of people and make money off of them, and not because the studio actually cares about the politics. Let's talk about some examples of forced politics, because I think that's the best way to get my point across. So we're going to start off with a pretty controversial one, and that's race swapping. A bit of a sticky subject, you could say, definitely a sticky one for sure, but this is an example of forced politics because the switching of races does not impact the story, and it's really obvious when the studio race swaps a character only to get brownie points from progressives. The character being another color does nothing for the story, and the studio just basically reskin an original character so they can get some hurrahs. And as someone who happens to be black, this is just super lazy diversity, honestly. Like, as a black person, I feel like zero connection to any character who is just lazily race swapped. While I, however, have more of a connection to Black Panther and Miles Morales and the Princess and the Frog movie. It just honestly feels gross whenever a character is just lazily race swapped. And look, I get representation is important, but create original black characters that would be a lot more personal and connected to the community. Not just, ooh, we get Black Ariel. It just feels like the studios think we're dumb. They can just quell us by just making random characters black. They're like, we're hearing people want more representation in the movies. Okay, let's just make random established characters black with no rhyme or reason, just make them black. And where I think the real anger honestly comes for stuff like this, especially for me and people who aren't actually racist, is just the blatant money grabbing from these studios. Like, you're not changing the character because you want more diversity. You're changing it because you want money. You're changing it because, once again, you want those brownie points of being, yeah, we're more progressive, we like black people, yay, yay, yeah. But no, you're just changing characters who were originally white and making them black. That's just lazy and sloppy and stupid. Do better, please. And that's why a lot of the projects that race swap don't do the best, because if that's your big thing as a studio, you're probably ignoring the most important part of filmmaking, and that's the actual quality of your movie. And of course, there are some good race swaps, but the good ones usually seem to just happen out of meritocracy, and the actor of color was just the best for the job, even though historically the character was white. Now, race swapping can be pretty bad, but a movie can still survive with race swapping. A movie can still be good with race swapping. I even mentioned that there is some good versions of race swapping, but the next form of forced politics is something way worse than race swapping. It's something that's ruined entire movies and sometimes whole franchises, and that's the Mary Sue trope. Some people may not be familiar with this term, so let me explain what it is. It's a type of female character who is depicted as unrealistically lacking in flaws or weaknesses. Now, how does this have to do with politics? Well, in recent times, people wanted more female leads, which is totally fine. Some of my favorite leads are women. But in this new push for female leads, I believe that some politically biased people in the studios are like, hey, let's make our new female lead super strong because girls rule, boys drool, girl power. Yeah, girls get it done. This Mary Sue stuff also exploded around the SJW era and Me Too movements, like 2015, 2016 era type beat. Yeah. So the Mary Sue aspect of female leads was definitely very political, but it's also kind of hard to show a woman going through struggle in an action movie. It's hard to write. Because a very common way a lead faces struggle in an action movie is by losing a fight, losing an altercation. They get beaten up. But it's kind of hard to show a woman get beaten up in a movie. It's kind of hard to watch for the average viewer, and it's not very viewer friendly. But at the same time, struggle is needed for a main character to be relatable and liked by the audience. It's a necessary key in character writing. So if you don't have that struggle, it's very apparent, and Mary Sue writing does not allow for struggle. And I think, as many of you know, the biggest offender of Mary Sue type writing is Disney with Marvel and Star Wars. But my key example will be Rey from Star Wars, because I honestly think she's the best example of how Mary Sue writing can affect a project negatively. All I need is one scene from one movie and I'll expand on that. And that's the Kylo Ren and Rey fight in The Force Awakens. Their little duel. The Force Awakens was the first of the newer trilogy directed by J.J. Abrams, and there's the little duel between Rey and Kylo Ren. Rey is an up-and-coming underdog story, someone who learns they can use the Force. She's a Jedi, or I guess in this movie, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I watched it, but I don't fully remember. And then you have Kylo Ren. He's used the dark side, right? He's a master of the dark side. He's been training for way longer than Rey. He's super powerful, and it's a big test for Rey. And this battle happens. And you would think that Kylo Ren probably wins, and Rey barely escapes within an inch of her life. No, Rey actually wins, faces a little bit of struggle, but wins in the end, which makes absolutely zero fucking sense. Kylo Ren's supposed to be the next up-and-comer of, like, Darth Vader. He's supposed to be the Darth Vader, obviously, of this trilogy. And then somehow, this newbie, Rey just walks in and kicks his ass. That makes no sense. You lose all of this tension and all of this hype for this new villain by just having this girl just destroy him from the first movie when she has basically no experience. Compare her to someone like Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy, where when Luke first goes against like that type of their version of Kylo Ren, Darth Vader, right, who's this big baddie of the trilogy, when Luke goes against him, he loses his arm, he gets pushed off a building, he almost dies. But Rey, another walk in the park, it's another day in the office, what can I say? Just beat basically a Sith Lord. What can I say, man? What can I say? It's what I do. It's what I do. I'm Rey. So with the consequences of the Mary Sue writing, you lead to an unrealistic main character who's not relatable to fans. The villain loses all of his tension and all of his, I guess, aura or something. His aura, his 9,000 aura has been lost, and you kind of lose some aspects of that underdog story, which I feel like Star Wars is kind of known for. You lose that tension, you lose that relatability, all because you wanted to have a Mary Sue in your franchise. This just put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and now unfortunately you had a lot of people somehow equating female leads to bad writing. You just rotted people's brains this much where they truly believe this now. I think these forced politics push a lot of people over the edge to the point where if there's even a hint of politics, people will lose their mind and scream the woke propaganda is ruining Hollywood as we know it. And it's honestly just the reaction to the reaction. It's a counter-reaction to the forced politics. You can find a lot of counter-reaction throughout history. It's a very common thing. Just do a bit of looking. But this should not stop us from seeing the importance of politics in film and television. Politics in film and TV allow for relevant and important conversations to be had while still making it digestible and watchable. People are way more likely to watch a movie that has political undertones than listen to a speech that has political undertones. I mean, politics in movies and TV are important, man. I don't think us as a society would truly know how visceral and violent and destructive the Vietnam War was without some of the Vietnam War classics that we have, especially me, someone who was born in the 21st century, a Gen Zer. My true, actual, me seeing what was the Vietnam War and how it really impacted people wasn't through my history books, but it was through watching Platoon and Full Metal Jacket and Apocalypse Now and shit like that. These anti-war movies showed me the true horror of war and made me not want to ever be involved in propagating it and pushing war and being a war hawk. And I just can't stress enough how that's just really important. And that's why I find it really satisfying when a director or writer subtly shows me their worldview. Even if I don't really agree with them, I think a major power of art, and especially film, is being able to see how someone else thinks about something without them just telling you. It's always impressive and it's sometimes even powerful. And like it or not, people think about politics in different ways and they share it through their art or their filmmaking, subconsciously or consciously. So yes, politics do belong in entertainment. So that will be all for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys later. Peace, peace. Also, I much appreciate the support in the last video. Keep it up, guys.